Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1423B, and today's date is November 12th, 2017, and the title of the episode is, It's On, the Cabal Goes All In to Push the Next Event. Now, before I get started, I want to make two announcements here. First, I want to thank all those veterans that fought for this country. Thank you very much for your service. The second announcement is that I placed an interview with Greg Manarino on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So if you go over to YouTube, you type in X22 Report Spotlight, it will bring you right to the video. Or you can come to x22report.com or newssentinel.com, scroll down a little bit, look over to the right-hand side, you'll see the video there. You can play it right on the site. Or you can go to Steemit, that's steemit.com/X22Report, and you can play the video right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, out in Spain, we can see that the people are not just sitting and standing by and allowing the Spanish government to do whatever they want. They voted, they had a referendum, they wanted independence, and of course, the powers in charge, they didn't want this to happen. And they started to arrest certain individuals, and we can see right now the people are standing up and saying no. Hundreds of thousands of people, about 750,000 people, according to Barcelona police, they are backing Catalonia's bid to secede from Spain. They clogged the streets in downtown Barcelona to demand the release of the jailed separatist leaders, and that's what they're calling them. They're the leaders of the Catalonian government. And we see right now that the people, they're marching in the streets, and they pretty much are telling the government, listen, we want independence. The people of Catalonia voted for it, they want it, and you're trying to suppress all of this. And we'll have to see how this moves forward, because as we can see, the people are speaking up and people are coming out in numbers to show their support for what is going on. Here in the United States, we can see the U.S. is branding RT's a foreign agent. Now, RT America is a U.S.-based subsidiary of RT, and the United States came out and they registered RT as a foreign agent under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Now, when looking at this, we can see that the Cabal is putting a lot of pressure on Russia, and they're trying to make Russia counter every single move. Now, the Justice Department demand that RT register as a foreign agent is aimed at delegitimizing RT as a news source, intimidating its journalists and guests, and setting the precedent for taking similar actions against other news outlets. Now, the U.S. government, they've given no public justification for its demand, and right now we can see that they are pushing this agenda. What's very interesting is that the U.S. has made no similar demand in relation to other outlets that have other government financing and backing, like the BBC, for example. They haven't said anything about that. The reason why they're doing this is they're putting pressure on Russia. They're provoking Russia. And we can see that this is all coming from an organization calling itself the European Values Think Tank, based in Czech Republic and funded by the U.S. Embassy and foundations associated with the billionaire George Soros, published a list of different news organizations, different names around the world that should be registered as foreign agents or they're hostile foreign powers. And they published a list including names of about 2,300 RT guests. And some of them are Julian Assange, Max Blumenthal, Seymour Hersh, Jeremy Scahill, Ed Schultz, Matt Taibbi, and many others. And they're going down the list. Even Russell Brand, Oliver Stone. I mean, they're just making up this list saying, yeah, all these individuals are hostile foreign powers. These news organizations that they work for should be foreign agents. And we can see that they're pushing their agenda very, very hard. Now, again, this is going to be a very difficult thing to continually push because this hits against free speech. And we can see that this is going to be a major problem here. Now, of course, we know why they're doing this, because they're still trying to push their event. We see French President Macron, he is asking for a revised Iran nuclear deal, and we can see that the P5+1 deal, it looks like countries are coming out now saying, listen, we need to revise this plan. Now, you have to remember why this plan was created. Remember, they kept on saying that Iran was in the process of creating a nuclear weapon. Now, the United States, the Cabal, after Syria, they were going to go into Iran and have regime change. If Iran was a nuclear power, this would be impossible. So they needed a way to make sure that Iran didn't become a nuclear power. And when I say nuclear power, I mean where they didn't create nuclear weapons. So they came up with this plan and made sure that they couldn't do this. If they couldn't do it, then it would be easier to invade and have regime change. And now what they're seeing is that all these checks and balances, well, it's making it difficult to start a war with Iran. Because, with North Korea, they can say, they're developing a nuclear weapon, they're going to destroy us. Well, Iran's not creating any nuclear weapon, so they can't use it to say that they're going to start a war or do something. They can't go into the country because they're creating a nuclear weapon, because they're checked by the IAEA, and they're saying that everything is fantastic. And we see right now the leaders out there, well, they're the ones who came up with the deal. Now they're going back on the deal, because we can see what's happening. The Cabal, they're stuck. They need a war to break out. It's either with Iran, it's with Ukraine, with Syria, with North Korea, Venezuela maybe. Anywhere they possibly can do this, this is what they're trying to do. Russia, China, they didn't fall for it. They tried with them. It's not working. Putin doesn't work that way. Xi Jinping does not work that way. But they're noticing that they can do this with other nations, and it's becoming very, very difficult, because Iran, they haven't started a war in over 200 years. They're not going to start one now. It's not in their interest to start a war. But we can see the Arab League right now. They're set to hold an emergency meeting on Iran at Saudi Arabia's request. The kingdom has mobilized its F-15 fighter jet fleet to launch a military operation against the Iranian-backed terrorist militia of Hezbollah in Lebanon. And we can see that they're using Lebanon right now as a proxy to get into war with Iran. This is the whole plan. Now think about it. The civil war in Yemen going nowhere. Saudi Arabia, they can't get anywhere in Yemen, and they understand this. We see Qatar economic blockade. Well, that's not working. Qatar is moving closer to Iran. Yemen is closer to Iran. Russia is backing up these countries. We see the latest civil unrest in Bahrain, and the alleged bombing of a major oil pipeline there is also another problem. And when we look at this, we can see that, all of this, and you add it all up, you can see they are stuck. They have no other place to go at this point. The paid mercenaries in Syria, they're done for. So this Israeli TV, Channel 10, they uncovered these secret documents and they made them public. And they're saying that the whole entire plan to provoke war in Lebanon is coordinated with Saudi Arabia and Israel to instigate a new Middle East war. And what they're doing is they're going to vilify Iran and use Lebanon to get into Iran. So what we're seeing right now is Israel and other countries had this huge military exercise, and they had a lot of different countries involved in it. And back in September, they also simulated an invasion of Lebanon, designed specifically to target the Lebanese group Hezbollah. And we see at this point, this was all being done because this was part of their plan. Now, the cable was leaked by Barak Ravid, senior diplomatic correspondent for Channel 10 News. The communique, he said, was sent from the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Jerusalem on November 6th to all Israeli embassies. It instructed Israeli diplomats to do everything possible to rev up diplomatic pressure against Hezbollah and Iran. The communication urged support for Saudi Arabia's war in Yemen and for Israeli diplomats to appeal to the highest officials in their host countries to expel Hezbollah from Lebanese government and politics. Resignation leaves Lebanon vulnerable to attack. In Lebanon, Harari's resignation is seen as having been forced by the Saudis in order to destabilize the Lebanese government, which will foment discord and leave Lebanon vulnerable to Israeli attack. So this whole thing is completely planned, and then eventually they will use this to start the war with Iran, and the war then will be started because they're hoping to get other countries involved in this, and the United States involved in this, and then Russia involved in this, and then China involved in this, and then we have a world war. And we can see that this whole thing is being done to create the event of all events. And again, what is happening here is not by accident. It was pre-planned a long time ago. We see Jordan is out there. They are saying, listen, the deal with Russia and U.S. is fantastic. We're seeing that Washington and Moscow, they've signed a deal for a partial cessation of hostilities in the southern province of Syria based on de-escalation zones, and they brokered this last July, and this is a good deal. And what we're seeing is that U.S., Russia, their statement on Syria, well, it took months of preparation. This is not something that they came up with yesterday and they said, oh, here, we have this statement on Syria. Russia and the United States, they've been working very, very closely to come up with a deal in Syria. And Trump actually tweeted out, when all the haters and fools out there realize that having a good relationship with Russia is a good thing, not a bad thing, they're always playing politics. Bad for our country. I want to solve North Korea, Syria, Ukraine terrorism, and Russia can greatly help with this. And he's absolutely right. What he's really saying is that we need to get rid of the cabal, the paid mercenaries, and Russia can help with this situation because it's very difficult for Trump to maneuver and to go after the cabal right now because there are too many different operatives within the government that are stopping him. So he's been working with Russia, and this is why the cabal has been trying to stop him all along, saying there's Russian collusion. He's working with Putin. They don't want him to meet with Putin because, again, Putin, Russia is supposed to be our enemy. And Trump and Putin, they have agreed to defeat the Islamic State in Syria, in Iraq, and everywhere else. This is not good for the cabal. Remember, the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, that is the army of the cabal, not the army of the United States. This is what the cabal uses to push their agenda across the world. And Trump says the U.S. needs to team up with Russia to solve these global issues. And what we're seeing right now is that Trump, Russia, they're going after the armies of the cabal. And the cabal right now, they're pushing their agenda as hard as they possibly can. They're ready to push the event. They're already building the propaganda. And they're getting ready to start a war. Now, is this going to work? We don't know at this point. Hopefully their event doesn't work. Hopefully it's stopped, it's shut down. But we can see that they have plan after plan after plan. They always like to meet their goal. They might not meet it the first time around, but they don't stop trying. And they will try to have some type of false flag, a distraction, to start something to make it look like maybe Iran or something in Lebanon or something in Syria or something in North Korea. Something happened and these countries were to blame, and this is why we're getting into war. And we can see that they're pushing this very hard. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.